Hi guys, I wanted to start my presentation by explaining why my proposal is slightly different than my original proposal. So I had proposed looking into why charter schools are so successful, and in trying to prove that they were successful in the first place, I realized I could not. So that's unfortunate since I'm a big supporter of charter schools, but that's why we switched it up, and my paper will focus on what produces high quality educators. So what produces a high quality educator? The question is simple. What produces a high quality educator? Policies have been designed and implemented to deal with the growing number of issues the public school system faces. They reach across a number of areas from concerns with from the social environment of the students to plans to further narrow the achievement gap. In a time where elaborate policies are being designed with the anticipation of positive outcomes on student education, one must wonder if they have it all wrong. Money and school resources go hand in hand. One belief is that the more money available, the higher quality of the resources. There is little reason to believe that money is not an important component to the public school system. Available funds determine a district's ability to bring quality resources to the students. More funds available, the hope is the better quality of resources that can be provided. Students and educators have remained the key component to the education system. Students cannot be educated without a teacher, and teachers cannot educate if there are not any students. What if it was just that simple and the most important aspect of the public education system was a high-producing educator? So why is education so important? I mean, we all know education dictates the future of every American citizen. An inefficient education can squash the hopes and dreams of a student, while a high-quality education can help to develop the mind and set goals an individual was not aware they even had. There are a number of areas that have come into question regarding the quality, effectiveness, and efficiency of the public school system in the United States. I just want to make a little point here. So my paper does not quantify what is successful. So each student's level of success is different. It's just how it is. So success is based on the individual student and what they may or may not be capable of achieving if they had had a better teacher. So I'm going to give you guys a little background on my previous findings. I'm sorry that this might be a bit long. So John Chubb and Terry Moe in 1990, Public Markets in American Schools was published. It was by the two of them. They offered a study of 500 schools and 20,000 principals, teachers, and students over a 10-year period. They concluded that government solutions to public school reform have failed because the government is not capable of actually understanding the needs of schools. For Chubbs and Moe, the government is those that pass the laws related to school reform, so like Congress, state legislators, the executive offices, either at the presidential level or at a state level. Market competition, where parents choose between private and public schools, is the key to success in a student's ability. School organization and family background are the most significant causes of student achievement. For Chubbs and Moe, the study finds that effective schools are characterized by greater principal control over personal decisions, clear goals, strong leadership, high-quality teacher professionalism, and ambitious academic programs. The key is school leadership because it facilitates quality educators. Harold Winglinski, he discusses school environment. It's the fundamental connection between resources and achievement. Winglinski measures 9 variables, which were adjusted for regional variation. Sociologists of education believe that a student's socioeconomic status predetermines those students' capabilities in the classroom. This concept did not consider the wealth of the student, the school district, or individual schools, but rather the level of affluence of an individual student came from, so their family background. He focused on the relationship between resources and a student's level of achievement. He concluded that the reason students from low economic backgrounds achieve a lower level of achievement in the school setting is not an effect from the individual's background, so essentially not an effect of their socioeconomic background, but most likely the effect of the school's inability to make sound fiscal decisions. Quality is important, but Winglinski finds that students are better suited to learn and retain knowledge in a setting more focused on the individual student's relationship with the teacher. Michael Rebell and Joseph Wardinsky. They credit teacher quality as an asset to the student's level of achievement, but small class size is important. Small class size allows for more personalized instruction. They're directly correlated with improved student achievement. For these two, money matters, but only when spent on resources that can influence a student's level of achievement. There's no doubt in their minds that money matters. They feel as though the debate is over and public policy needs to focus on how can money be effectively spent to ensure maximum results. They acknowledge teachers for both their ability to engage students and increase their level of achievement, but they also blame them for students' lack of sufficient learning. Wardynski credits student achievement as an asset to a student's level of achievement, but also small class size. So the importance here is the size of the class and the quality of the educator. Eric Hanuski, he's the bread and butter of my paper. I love his writing, I always have. He talks a lot about money in school and what we really should be doing with it. Knowing that the educator is important brings more questions about how a teacher becomes a valuable educator. Is it based solely on the characteristics of the individual educator, or is money the only influence? Hanuski is widely referred to in education funding cases because it is a belief that money does not matter. He blames teacher quality for the inconsistencies in the system. The focus needs to shift from concerns about teachers' level of education and focus on their ability to teach. Educators not paid based on their effectiveness as a teacher or class size, subject or grade. Teachers are not paid based on their effectiveness as a teacher or the class size or the subject or the grade level. The level of their degree that they have acquired determines their pay. The focus should be on the value of the educator, not the value of the degree. If we can't identify the best teachers by comparing their credentials, we face the obvious and crucial question: how do we define a good teacher? The best way to identify a teacher's effectiveness is to observe their classroom performance, and specifically what their students learn. Hanuski credits students with having the greatest impact. Credits teachers having the greatest impact on students. Class size is not as important in Hanuski's opinion. A high-quality educator can have the highest positive effects on a student's education, while a low-quality educator can do just the opposite. Tara Batelli, Demetria Kalogratis, I'm sorry for butchering their names, and Susanna Loeb. They hypothesized that while teacher preference is related to student characteristics and location play a role in a teacher's career decision, the main effect is school leadership. They attempt to answer questions about the ability to recruit and retain high-quality educators. They use 6 years of administrative data on all school districts staff and students in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. From this data, they generated a measure of school effectiveness during each principal's tenure. School effectiveness is based on the principal's leadership. They measure school effectiveness based on the value added to the student achievement during a principal's tenure. They also construct a similar measure for the teacher's effectiveness based on the value added by a teacher to student achievement, and use these two effectiveness to measure the better understanding of the importance of personal practices for school effectiveness. So they have three key findings. The more effective a principal, the more they are able to retain more effective teachers and remove less effective teachers. They also find that among teachers who transfer to other schools, they're more likely to transfer to schools with more effective leadership. They also find it's a bit weak, so I didn't too much of this in my proposal. That over time, when they work with more effective principals, teachers will become more efficient educators. Jonah Rockoff. Rockoff attempts to quantify the impact of teachers on student achievement through panel data. In order to provide more accurate estimates of how much teachers affect the achievement of students, he obtained panel data covering over a decade of student test scores and teacher assignments in two similar school districts. The observations of teachers within multiple classrooms allowed him to measure teacher fixed effects while including direct controls for a number of classroom-specific factors that may systematically influence student test score performance, such as achievement and class size. Observations of students' test scores in multiple years allows for the inclusion of student fixed effects, so that variation in students' fixed characteristics, such as cognitive ability, does not drive estimated differences in student performances across teachers. In addition, because teachers' experience levels change naturally, the effective experience on a student's performance is identified from variations within teachers. His study concludes that improving teacher quality may be the key to improving student achievement outcomes. He also finds that rewarding teachers based on performance is more effective in retaining teachers. He also finds it's clear that much research into high-quality teachers can be identified, recruited, and retained. So my data and methods. So Massachusetts, based on educational attainment, is regarded the highest producing state in the United States regarding student achievement. The United States Census Bureau in 2011 released a table referring to the 2009 census results, categorizing the 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia based on educational attainment. Massachusetts was found to have 89% graduation rate, 19th in the country. Of those graduates, 38% were found to have a bachelor's degree and 16% to have a further degree. Because Massachusetts is the highest producing state based on student attainment, essentially these results say that Massachusetts is producing higher levels of students who are obtaining higher levels of degrees, even though 16.4% sounds a little low, it is true. Because Massachusetts is the highest producing state based on student attainment, it would be best to focus the data collection on Massachusetts in hopes to find what educators in Massachusetts are doing to produce high student attainment and in turn understand what makes these educators so successful. The data will be collected from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DOE. The DOE collections data pertaining to individual schools and school districts as a whole. The information is related to general information, students, teachers, finance, assessments, and accountability. This information is then used to ensure student achievement is met and to manage school districts that are not generating high enough levels of achievement. The dependent variable will be student success, which will be based on the 2004 10th grade MCAS results in a district. Both charter and traditional high schools will be looked at and compared. While charter schools are not proven to be more successful in student achievement, unfortunately, they are viable alternatives to traditional schools. Many believe that the lack of rules and regulations placed on charter schools has had a great effect on an educator's ability to foster academic achievement. The intent of the study is to decipher why some educators are successful and some are not. MCAS scores are a good mechanism to establish success or failure because they are measuring the same object and result in quantitative report on the performance of individual schools, students, and districts, which in turn is the result of educators' effectiveness or a lack thereof. The independent variables that would be used for this study are regulations on traditional schools versus regulation on charter schools. As I had said, charter schools are not required to adhere to as many regulations as traditional schools. And in order to determine if less regulation is beneficial or detrimental to a teacher's ability, it would be best to look to charter schools teachers who have moved on to traditional public schools or vice versa to verify if this is true. If true, it proves that if this is true, it proves that it's its own study matter in itself. Total expenditure per pupil specific to classroom teachers, so essentially teacher pay. Level of teacher education, which previous findings prove that this may be irrelevant. It's still important to look at. Number of years teaching, very important. Some say that teachers burn out after a certain period. Some say that they search for tenure, and then once they reach it, they quit. So it'd be important to see. Well, by quit I mean they just quit producing successful students. It'd be important to see if there's any truth to that. Length of class periods. So some classes are taught for 50 minutes. Some schools have hour-and-a-half periods. It'd be very beneficial to see if this is seen by educators as an important quality to where they can better manage their time and teach students more. Teacher preparation is very specific to the districts. All school districts are required to have teacher prep courses regularly. Just seeing what teachers really feel about those, what's actually being taught at them, if there's anything useful, or if their time is just being wasted by being explained new regulations that are being placed on them. Student-teacher ratio, as we've seen, is always very important. Should it be smaller? Can it be higher? I think right now we're at 13 students to one teacher. That seems pretty good here in Massachusetts. We got to see if it could be bumped up a little more, maybe with better teachers teaching a few more students. I believe it would be best to use a multiple linear regression to analyze the data. I want to find the relationship of the independent variables and the independent variables. A multilinear regression analysis will help prove if there is a relationship between high MCAS results, i.e. student success, and a teacher's ability, and what student success is dependent on. I hypothesize that my independent variables will all be at a level of success. If at a level of success, will yield the most positive effect on students' performance as a result of positive reinforcement and the independent variables independent variables will give an educator. No one disbelieves that quality educators are important to the level of achievement students are capable of. The problem is finding, obtaining, and maintaining quality educators. Money is the most valuable component to the system because it's the means to acquire the most valuable resources, educators. If teachers are the most valuable resource to a student's achievement and well-being, it is important to figure out what controllable characteristics can be reproduced across the country in public schools to foster an environment conducive to effective and efficient learning atmosphere. In turn, it gives teachers the needed structure to produce a successful student. Measure and analyzing the importance of total expenditure per pupil specific to class teacher, level of teacher education, number of years teaching, length of class periods, teacher prep, student-teacher ratio, and regulations on traditional public schools versus regulations on charter schools or lack thereof, and their effects on the 10th grade MCAS results could be quite beneficial. There are a number of classrooms things that cannot be there are a number of aspects of the classroom that cannot be controlled, but the independent variables of this study, if proven to be effective, to affect the 10th grade MCAS score successfully, can all be controlled and mimicked across the country. So that's my presentation. I apologize for anything you guys didn't understand or wherever I got nervous. This is my 4th time recording it. I'm hoping this is my last time. So any questions you have, I will appreciate them. I'll do my best to answer them. I hope you found this interesting. Have a good one.